morning or afternoon, 5, 6. Another geography class. This time we're on page 288 in lesson 3 of our chapter on Western Europe, chapter 11. Today we learn about 3 more countries nestled in the center of Europe, but we'll still call this Western Europe, responsible for these 7 wonderful things. All right? We're talking about the countries of Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. What do you already know about Germany or the Swiss or Austria? It's not Australia. Different country. This is Austria right here in orange. In yellow, landlocked, right tight center Europe, we have Switzerland. And this big reddish colored country here in this political map, bordering Denmark to the north, where Number of the Stars takes place. And to the west, we have France, who we just learned about. On the border here between France and Germany is the Rhine River. And of course, the United Kingdom up here, the Benelux countries northwest. We have Germany there. Germany is where we're going to start. You've maybe seen the flag there with the black, red, and characteristic yellow. They have mountains down south by the other countries we're going to learn about. Those are called the Alps. But they have flatlands in the north. There you see the Alps are great for skiing. So you get a lot of tourists. Snowy in the mountainous regions. There's a region called Bavaria that's beautiful. It includes Munich, which is its 3rd largest city up there in the northern area. 3 important rivers here in Germany. The Danube, the Rhine, which I just mentioned borders with France on the west, and then the Elbe River. Berlin is its capital. You've maybe heard of it. It's the city that was divided right down the middle with a wall when Communist Soviet Union took over the east and the democratic west, United Kingdom, United States, took over the west. So they divided it right down the middle where they had the communists in the east and the democracy in the west. Well, that wall fell down, but the country is still working through the process of what's called reunification, or bringing these 2 very different sides together with a difficult history of conflict. Hamburg is its largest port city. Remember, a port is a city on the water where lots of trade happens, importing, exporting, boats coming in with things, boats leaving with exports. I like this map because it points out our rivers we just talked about. The Elbe up there in the north, the Rhine here to the west, and towards the south, the Danube. This is really just the upper Danube. The Danube continues to wind down south through Austria, Hungary, Croatia, and other southern European countries. But the Alps will be right here, so that sort of landlocks these regions from the southern regions. So the Alps wind through Austria, southern Germany, and Switzerland. We'll talk more about those in a moment, but the Ruhr is an area it mentions there on page 289 where they get a lot of their natural resources, their mineral resources, and a large part why they are the economic giant that they are, why they were able to pull together so many machines of war in World Wars I and II. It's rich in coal and iron ore, so very important for powering factories, and iron ore for creating tools, weapons, vehicles, machinery. And yes, this picture shows the Ruhr. It looks like District 12 from the Hunger Games, doesn't it? The Black Forest, the book makes sure we know it is not literally a black forest, but it's so thick with trees that it almost looks black, so dark. The trees are so close together. And of course, where you find trees, you'll find the valuable economic resource of wood. They have wood products there. There are pollution concerns that are mentioned. Remember, acid rain means pollution that reaches the water, and then when it evaporates, you've got that pollution in the clouds, and then subsequently in the rain that falls, which would be dangerous, hazardous to plant life, to minerals, and to the people who are living in that area. So something that they're working through. 3 things that they have a lot of. If you know about German culture, many of you maybe come from this culture: beer, wine, and cheese. They, like a lot of these countries, have dairy cattle, beef cattle, so livestock, and then the other main ones, grains, fruits and veggies. What is the Autobahn? Auto sounds a little bit like me, or just a car, right? Automobile. And that's exactly what we're talking about. The Autobahn is their unique highway system. Maybe the closest comparison for us would be the interstate. They established theirs before we did, and it's known notoriously for having very high speeds. In fact, some stretches of the Autobahn highway in Germany don't even have speed limits. Some people say that it doesn't have speed limits anywhere. That's only 60%. Over half of it does not, which is pretty crazy. But 40%, so almost half, does have speed limits between 60 and 75 miles per hour, which now that our interstates have mostly moved to 70, that's actually pretty average for us. But a consistent speed of 81 is advised by the government. In the left lane, which we call the fast lane, it's especially the fast lane in Germany, on the Autobahn you can expect cars going 150 miles per hour. Wild. A Grand Prix veteran who's like a Formula One race car driver set the record for driving 200 and almost 270 miles per hour in his Mercedes-Benz W125 on the Autobahn. Had a V12 engine. His rival was killed trying to beat him that same day in the record. More facts about the Autobahn. The biggest pileup or crash to date involved almost 260 cars. There were 73 collisions, 82 people injured. It resulted in more than $2 million in damage. Took 3 helicopters, 40 ambulances, 350 firemen and 4 first responders to sort it all out. Can you imagine such a wreck? And no one died. While the idea behind the Autobahn showed up in the 20s, the person who really made it their pet project was the notorious Adolf Hitler, who led Germany into World War II, among many other things, responsible for the Holocaust and the Nazi Third Reich. He embraced this project, though. It was one of the, I guess we could say, good things. He was passionate about creating this highway system. He had 130,000 people working in 1936 to create the Autobahn. You see, a plane there is even landing, trying out the Autobahn because they paved it to withstand such a thing. It was used as a landing strip in World War II. You can find Autobahns in Austria and other countries as well. They go so fast that if your vehicle can't go over 37 miles an hour, you're not even allowed to use it. And you might find the Autobahn in video games like these listed. Germany has a government kind of like ours. It's called a federal republic, where you have a national or federal government sharing power with state governments. We have the same. The difference, their president, that name president for them is more of a figurehead, sort of like the kings and queens in the United Kingdom. The main person, really their president, the way we understand it, is their chancellor. And Angela Merkel, a female chancellor, wields a lot of power as the leader of the economic leader in Europe, Germany. And we hear about her a lot in current events. She's very important. We talked about the concept of reunification after these wars and after the Cold War with the Soviet Union, reuniting this country from the Soviet Union's communism that took over and stayed there for decades, and the Western Europe democracy. Obviously, democracy ended up winning out because now they're a federal republic and they need to get everyone on the same page. The book said 82 point something million people. I looked it up and they still have just barely above that, even in 13 years, 83 million people. So they aren't growing super fast. But that's a lot of people. Of course, they speak German, right? Or Deutsch. This is a country called Deutschland, if you said it in German. So they speak German, and you'll expect either Roman Catholics or Protestants, right? Think about the Reformation. Luther was a German. And so you have probably a lot of Lutherans or Protestants there, as well as maybe Calvinists, who are also Protestant, and then you still have the Roman Catholics there from the Holy Roman Empire days. Speaking of Luther, there is his notorious Wartburg Castle, where he holed up to stay safe while there was a threat to kill him and a price on his head. This is where he actually translated the Bible into German from Latin, so the common people there could read it. Other amazing castles, they look like they're out of fairy tales. We have Hohenzollern Castle right here, built up on a hill. And then the probably most famous one, this one's often called the fairy tale castle, Neuschwanstein Castle. Look at that, both in the spring and in the wintertime. It looks like something out of Frozen, doesn't it? Beautiful. The book briefly mentions a place called Liechtenstein. If you've heard of A Knight's Tale, the main character says he's from Liechtenstein. It's a very small country. In fact, it's so small we'd call it maybe just a micro-state, not really a true country. Sometimes it's also called a municipality. They speak German there. It's the fourth smallest country in Europe. We call it an Alpine nation, like all of these countries, because it's nestled by the Alps. So you see it in the picture there. That's its flag. Remember that name, Liechtenstein. 2 countries left. If you've heard of Austria, this is where Arnold Schwarzenegger was born. The Alps especially cover this country. They have a lot of mountainous regions, which means what do you get from mountains? You get trees, you get elevation, so you can generate power, which is called hydroelectric power from the water that's moving down the slope. Hydroelectric power is drawing electricity from water, moving water. And then also tourism. We talk about hiking, and then the skiing and the snow and the different beauties there in nature. The alpine climate, I always try to stick a climate question into these quizzes. If you're in the Alps, especially high up, you'll get a snowy winter season, of course, but down low, you can expect a rainy winter season, and then summer is beautiful. It never gets that warm, especially in Austria. The famous city, and its largest, is called Vienna. It's the capital of Austria. They have many factories which produce machinery, chemicals, metals, and vehicles there in Austria. And then again, livestock, beets, potatoes, fruits, grains. Sounds kind of like Ireland there. They have agricultural exports. And just quick to run through, they have 8.1 million people, so quite a few less than Germany. They speak German, though, too, and you'll expect more Roman Catholic there. The book mentions its famous composers. I have some of them pictured in the top right. Famous classical composers like Haydn, Mozart, and Schubert. Schubert, I think, was a romantic composer. Very good at piano. So they have very famous symphonic composers, people who wrote beautiful music way back. And have you ever seen this cross? No, it's not the Band-Aid brand. Switzerland is a beautiful nation, landlocked. It has no water on any sides, but they've maintained a stable democratic government for over 7 centuries. They stay neutral in all these world wars. They never get involved in the fight. They don't join the good or the bad, so to speak, side. They just stay out of it. That's called staying neutral. So they practice neutrality. A continental divide means that, right, you have a mountain, so you're going to have water pulled by gravity on either side. Rivers will either flow down this side, or with a mountain, the river will flow down this way, because water follows gravity. Sorry, my words got covered up by my Swiss chocolate there. But a continental divide, says the book, is the high place, and then down from that high place, you'll get rivers flowing. So there's a lot of rivers flowing down from the peaks in Switzerland, which offers hydroelectric power. So they can generate a lot of economy from providing all that power to the nearby nations. Their capital is Bern, not spelt like burn fire, but like Bern the city, B-E-R-N. Their largest city is not Bern, though. It's Zurich. Luther made an appearance in Zurich at a Zurich conference where he was debating with, I think it was Ulrich Zwingli, who's a Swiss reformer. All these countries kind of had their own reformations, Protestant reformations at the same time. Geneva, another famous city where you can go either as a tourist or to see historical sites. They have a Geneva Convention, the Geneva Concord. A lot of peacemaking treaties happen in Geneva because, after all, it was a neutral nation, right? They speak 4 different languages there. What do we call someone who speaks multiple languages? They're called multilingual. Someone who speaks at least 2 is bilingual. You can expect that out of the Swiss people. They speak German, French, Italian, and something called Romansh. I'll explain a couple of these pictures. It says Swiss made. So that's a badge of honor. If something's made in Switzerland, it's probably of high quality. I've seen backpacks with that picture. You can see it in the Swiss watch, which are very fancy. Of course, there's such thing as a Swiss Army knife. I had the Swiss cheese in the first picture. But most important, we have Swiss chocolate, right? Swiss Miss is a hot chocolate brand, isn't it? So that's our Alpine nations today. We have Germany, the biggest, and then we had Austria, which shares a lot of its cultural influence with Germany. Only 8 million people there, though. And then the little, neutral, landlocked, mountainous region called Switzerland. Thank you for listening. Don't